Welcome all to Off the Cuff, and today I have two brilliant musicians here with me. They will be talking about the Freight. It's a non-profit and a venue also, and they are promoting South Asian Indian artists there now. I'd love to welcome PC Muñoz here and Dr. Rohan Krishnamurthy. Welcome to Off the Cuff.
Great to be here.
Glad to be back.
Yeah,
Thanks
lovely
for
to
having
have
us.
you, PC, and looking forward to what you two guys are going to play for my audience. But a little bit about them. PC Munoz is a recording artist, writer, and a program designer based in San Francisco. He is the director of programming at The Freight in Berkeley, a current board governor for the San Francisco chapter of the Recording Academy, a current Mosaic American Fellow, a featured writer in the collection New Chamorro, is that right? Yeah. Literature from University of Hawaii Press, and was the 2022 Quintito Latino Composer in Residence. And this is just tip of the iceberg. Please go to pcmunoz.com to know what he's accomplished, and that's incredible. And about Dr. Rohan Krishnamurthy, he's an Indian American percussionist, composer, and educator. He is one of the leading voices of Indian classical and cross-genre music in the South Asian diaspora. Acclaimed a musical ambassador by the Times of India, he received mridangam training from the legendary maestro Sri Guruvayur Dorai, and he also plays kanjira, tabla, and clay ghara. If I'm correct.
Yeah.
And
The
again,
drums set.
go to rohanrhythm.com to know more about him. So, let's talk about the Freight. Can you elaborate on, for our Bolly listeners? I'm sure some of them have heard about it because you've been having amazing artists from all over the world there.
Yes.
I saw the lineup and it's crazy. So,
Thank you.
just tell us a little bit about the Freight.
Yeah, so the Freight's been around since 1968 in Berkeley. It started as a little coffee house, and it's had 3 locations, one on San Pablo in Berkeley, always in Berkeley, and then there was one on Addison, close to San Pablo. And we have this new location. It's not so new anymore. It's over 10 years old now. Right on 2020 Addison Street in the kind of arts district of Berkeley. And started off really being known as a folk and kind of bluegrass and country venue, and it still retains a lot of that. We still have artists of those genres coming in. The artistic director prior to me, his name was Peter Williams, and he brought in a lot of jazz.
Okay.
When I joined, I was first the director of education and community engagement, and started a bunch of programs there. And then when I moved into director of programming, one of the things that I noticed was, we hadn't done any Indian classical music or really much South Asian representation at all on our stage.
Okay.
So I really wanted to rectify that. And we got our new talent buyer. His name is Par Nyberger. He came from Miami, New York, doing big things with the World Music Institute and Apollo Theater and all sorts of places. And that was one of the first things I told him. I said, we have a big Indian community here in the Bay Area, and really like to reach them and serve them with this music. And fortunately, he was raised with that music and knew all the agents and artists to bring in, and immediately went right to work doing that. And we've already had many sold out shows with this genre. We have a bunch coming up.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we have Rohan developed a curriculum for our Golden State of Song program, which is our arts integration education program. He has workshops coming up, so lots of stuff
Yeah, I'd
happening.
love to know about that, the Golden State of Song. What's that initiative about?
Go ahead.
I'll talk a little bit, then I can tell about what he
Okay.
developed with Jim Santillo. So Golden State of Song is an arts integration program that uses music to enhance and enrich specifically social studies 4th grade curriculum, because California students,
grade, yes.
they study California history. But what we found is the contributions, especially the artistic contributions of different communities, are often relegated to maybe a paragraph or a sentence in some cases. So what we wanted to do was kind of illuminate those important musical contributions by different native, migrant, and immigrant communities and shine a light on them. So we have different modules that kind of focus on different communities. So we have one that's based around the music that happened in the camps, the Japanese and incarceration camps during World War II. That's led by Shirley Muramoto as a koto player. And a bunch of other musicians contribute to that. And we have another module that's based around Ohlone song tradition. Those are it's led by a group, a duo of sisters called the Ohlone Sisters. And then Dr. Krishnamurthy and Jim Santi Owen developed the one that we call a sonic tapestry, which is contribution of Indian immigrants and that music that was brought to the Bay Area specifically. And he could talk a little bit about how they developed that and things they found.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'll take it a quick step back here. So about the freight,
Yes.
so I'm based in Oakland, and the freight is one of those institutions that we often take for granted. It's been around for so long, and almost any night you go there, it's an incredible world touring act. So it's one of those things that I think is so deeply rooted in the community that you just take it for granted. And of course, we know we can't take anything for granted, but it's really wonderful to have that institution. I, for the over 12, 13 years I've been here, based in the Bay, regularly go to the freight for shows, and even recently went to the show with Alam Khan and Vijay Iyer and Nitin Mithal, very dear friends of mine. So, which is also sold out. I think I just got a standing room all the way in the back. So, which is wonderful to see.
What's
so
the
many.
capacity of the?
We say around 450.
Wow.
We could fit some more bodies in there, but right around there.
Yeah, just a beautiful space right in the heart of Berkeley, and that street, of course, also has so many other kind of pillars of the Berkeley and the Bay Area arts community. The California Jazz Conservatory is right across the street where I also teach. The Berkeley Repertory Theater is also just right across the street. So it's just an incredible few blocks that have also, I have to say, shaped my own musical and creative journey in the last decade or so. So going into the Golden State of Song, so it's a really incredible idea and module to kind of share these lesser known stories of immigrant communities. And what I have been working on with again another dear friend, Jim Santioan, who's also in Oakland, is kind of telling the story of the South Asian musical migration to the Bay Area and to California, and sort of tracing that, understanding where it came from, where it is today. And it's one of those things because in some ways it's like that story is hidden in plain sight. Things are happening all around. We're here on your show. Thank you for having us. And and there's I've actually been performed at a variety of venues right just a few blocks away. But there's also a danger in that, like I feel there's a collective idea in the South Asian community that our music and our traditions and our culture are being represented, are happening, are active. But at the same time, actually, there's very little documentation about where this came from.
Right.
Everyone kind of knows bits and pieces of the story. So this is, for me, also been personally a really great project to delve more into that story, into that history, which we're kind of starting roughly in the 60s. It has precedence even before that, but kind of with the establishment of the Ali Akbar College of Music in Marin County back in I think 65, which was I think probably the first Indian music school probably outside of India, certainly in the United States, and so many things kind of started there at the Ali Akbar College of Music, and much of what we're doing today is still very much kind of launching from that tradition over decades with Ali Akbar Khan Sahab and Pandit Swapan Chowdhury, who I also studied tabla with. Ustad Zakir Hussain was there, his father. So many people passed through. Pandit Chitraj Das, the Kathak legend. So it was just kind of this really important nexus of Indian music, dance, art, right here in our backyard. Also something we take for granted. We don't know a Bay Area without the Ali Akbar College, but it's now moved on to the next generation. Ali Akbar Khan Sahab's sons have continued. Swapan Das still teaching there, but sort of the next generation is continuing this journey, and so kind of looking at all of these things, like where it kind of started. And then, of course, the Ali Akbar College is a very unique institution. It's a college, a sort of center of music you can Google it, you can find it, but there's a lot of activity that happens in a much smaller scale, right? In a much smaller community level, neighborhood level, sometimes in people's garages, in living rooms, the teaching of Indian music, dance, culture. And that's also, I think, a very important part of the story. That's how I first started learning the mridangam. It was not at a college, not at a conservatory, but in my house. There was a local teacher at the, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where I grew up, and he, Damodaran Srinivasan came to my house, and that's how I learned for many, many months. So many of us have learned in that way. And so those stories have not really been told. We all know bits and pieces of it from our own experience, but there have been immigrants, from the 60s probably onwards who taught in these ways, who shared their culture, their traditions in whatever capacity that they could, and have kept,
taking their work forward. So important, for the younger generations to remember what Ravi Shankar did for music
of course.
in the West, or
Yes.
Zakir Hussain or so many other artists.
Of course,
And obviously, now I see a younger diaspora coming here, and also because of the demographic change, we also see a lot of elderly parents coming here who have interest and interest in different genres of music.
Of course.
Yes, we enjoy Bolly, and we think that is the biggest representation of India in the West, but actually we should give more thought and our time to classical music also.
Sure.
Even if for me, I can at least enjoy when I go there, and enjoy the artists, especially the collaborations that go on,
Right.
Especially you are the one who's collaborated with so many artists here, which is so wonderful. But this is a personal question now, is that, how has your musical journey shaped your cultural identity?
Yeah. I guess we can both answer. You can go first.
Sure. Of course, in the list of artists, I'm not even sure I mentioned Pandit Ravi Shankar again. You take that for granted. His work was so sort of seminal in the history of Indian music in the West. But of course, back in 1968, when he and Ustad Lalakau collaborated with the Beatles and the Woodstock performance, all that stuff, it was an Indian classical performance that suddenly brought this attention to this tradition outside of India in a way that had never happened before. A lot of things have happened since then, and we often talk about the waves of Indian immigration starting in the 60s, and then there was of course a large immigration in the 90s, and we're continuing to see that with a lot of the software and the tech immigration. So all of that has also changed and influenced who comes here, what the interests are, the amount of support, of all kinds, for the art form. So, which in many ways has been fantastic, and which has allowed someone like myself, a second-generation Indian American, to be a full-time musician, focusing on Indian classical music and collaborations. This was in my parents' generation, it was just unimaginable, right, to come to another country and be a professional musician. But because of the work of all of these artists and immigrants and communities, I had this, even had the opportunity to try this. So, again, for me, I think you hit the nail on the head. The idea of collaboration is very central to what I do. And I never really, as a kid, when you're growing up, you're not really thinking about it too much. But so much of what happens in all genres these days, but especially here in America, and especially, in California, the Bay Area, there's so many different cultures and genres, all, right next to each other. And, while there can be attempts to try to preserve and conserve a tradition, which is important in and of itself, there's always a kind of natural interest in collaborating with other people like yourself who might be playing a different instrument or coming from a different tradition. So I kind of grew up with that. And as I started performing more, the collaborations also started happening a lot more. And especially since being based here in the Bay, it's like there's a new collaboration every month or two, so it's pretty incredible. And I don't take that for granted. It takes a very kind of special alignment of stars for that to happen, to have that many artists
Yes.
in different traditions, active at the same time, willing to collaborate. Again, I don't take that for granted. Back in like '68, it was such a unique alignment of stars that made that happen. And in many ways, that same kind of collaboration with Pandit Ravi Shankar and the Beatles maybe hasn't happened, since then. It was such a unique moment in time. So I think we're seeing a very unique moment in time here in the Bay, particularly for South Asian.
Through your collaborations.
Through
also,
collaborations
but on
and-
a personal basis.
And learning about other cultures and genres
Absolutely,
through the
yes,
process.
yes.
Yeah.
What about you, PC?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. Collaboration's always been very central to all the work that I do.
Okay.
Mostly because, I mean, I think it has to do, I think we talked a little bit about this in our first interview when I was first here. Being a multiracial person, I always felt like, okay, I can't really be pigeonholed anyway.
Yeah.
So I can go lots of different directions. And it's fun to work with somebody and go, okay, here's what I'm bringing. Or, what can we build together? In terms of how the journey's kind of shaped my own cultural identity, it's been an arc of learning. When you start out, you're sort of learning your instrument and you're starting to create music. And I think, it's, in my case, I learned to identify later, this is some stuff that's related to a tradition from my own roots that I wasn't even aware of. I'll pick up this instrument just for a second.
Absolutely.
But I played this the last time that I was on the show.
This is called the slapstick, listeners.
Graham, who's in Marin County, that invented it.
Okay.
And he won the best new instrument, I think, at the 2017 NAMM show.
Okay.
And for me, it's an electric instrument. It's like an electric drum on a stick. I can generate tones with it, bend notes with it, which is unique. And for me, what it does is it recalls an instrument from my own heritage called the Balimbao Tudzin. My dad is from the Marianas Islands, specifically Guahan, and in the indigenous culture there's an instrument called the Balimbao Tudzin, which is related to the original sort of African diddley-bow, one-string instrument, which also becomes the berimbau in Brazil. And so for me, it's like an ancestral call to go back to that. And that's, working with those sorts of sounds and song traditions kind of calls me into my own heritage.
Yeah, and I can totally echo that as well. That the more you collaborate, the more you kind of get deeper into your tradition, and you want to learn more about it, because the collaborations keep you very humble, right? You're always learning. You're always learning something new, and you're also many times representing your tradition, your culture in new spaces. So with that comes like a huge responsibility. So for me, there's always been any kind of collaboration makes me want to go deeper and deeper into my tradition to learn more about it, and to understand, what it was, where it came from, and sort of how I'm also interpreting it. Right? I mean, the way that I present it is based on my understanding, my interpretation. So that's just it's a process.
And one of the things we both do is we kind of created our own percussion kits. They're very hybrid. That's something we've had in common from the beginning. Where if you were to look at the drum kit that he plays and the vibe, they're different, but they're very hybrid. Like there's different sorts of drums mounted on like a Western kick drum. There's different things happening. We're using different sounds as a reflection, I think, of the different sounds we're hearing in our heads and the way we want that stuff to sound when we're playing.
Right.
It's not necessarily reflected in like a traditional jazz or rock kit.
Right.
We have to, it's almost like we need to
Yeah.
customize our kits.
Yeah, and that took me actually down another path, which is that the drum set itself as an instrument, which is part of, now almost every genre you can think of, including, of course, Bollywood. So the drum set itself, as I learned, through my studies, is actually, it's a collection of instruments. It's not one instrument. It's a bunch of different drums that all come from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
It's not like they were all invented in San Jose.
Just
Right, so you have the cymbals from Turkey, from the Middle East. You have the snare drum, coming from like the orchestral or the marching band tradition, I should say. You have like the bass drum coming from like the Middle East, like timpani, the kettle drums. You have the toms coming from Native American, even Chinese traditions. You have the bass drum pedal coming from Germany, right? So all these things come from different parts of the world, but they came together in America. It was in America where American
land of the immigrants.
ingenuity
so,
and
even
and
India
innovation.
Won't have this,
Right.
It's
just because in America you had all of these different things, all these
Very
cultures.
true. Very
So it was in America there was this concept. Whoa, we can actually put all these things together and play them harmoniously,
Right.
in a way. So that got me thinking. Wow, so where does Indian percussion fit into this, right? So and that's why I started building what I call a hybrid kit. Where it's a drum set, a standard drum set as we think of it today,
So,
but incorporating Indian
I have
percussion.
a question. I know this is going to go long, but it's okay. I'm going to, it's very interesting to hear you guys. You come from a Carnatic classical background, right? And mridangam is usually played in the south and is a very ancient, percussion.
Right.
And you are, collaborating with people here in the West. And what I've heard a little bit is that Carnatic music is very structured and there's less improvisation in that, unlike the Hindustani classical music. So how do you bend those rules of Carnatic music when you collaborate?
Sure. Yeah, it's a complex question. We could probably spend the entire time
Maybe
talking
in
about
short,
it in
like
short.
a
But
few,
so Indian classical music, the Carnatic and Hindustani styles,
Yes.
I consider them two styles of the same music. The basic grammar,
Right.
the foundations are the same of raga and tala, melody and rhythm. So. They both feature improvisation to varying extents in different ways. So there's a lot of improvisation in Carnatic music as well.
Okay.
And in many ways, the Carnatic tradition has also been very open to Western and external influences over centuries.
Wonderful to
We think of like the standard conventional Carnatic ensemble today actually features a violin. Right, where did the violin come from? It came through the British, almost
Yes.
2.5 centuries ago, and has been part of the tradition now and indigenized, and now it's considered a core part of the sound of Indian music, right?
Oh,
Of Carnatic
interesting.
music. Other instruments, the saxophone, the keyboard, the mandolin, all these instruments have been, and of course, they're now in the drum set, and these things have been incorporated along with electronic, instruments. So I think a lot of it. Comes down to the individual artists, right? I mean,
Very true.
right? What is that artist doing? Why are they doing it? Like it's at some level still a very individual journey, right? Like I'm still filtering my understanding of the tradition in the past in my own way, in a way that's relevant to me.
Completely.
In the same way that my teacher's teacher 100 years ago was doing the same thing in his context in India, which we think of today as like, I mean, what is the tradition, right? I mean, who defines, that this is the tradition, and after that, we have to stick to that tradition. Like, all of these sort of like influential, seminal figures in even the Indian classical traditions were innovating and adapting incredibly during their lifetimes.
Very true.
Pandit Ravi Shankar is another example. Ustad Ali Khan. There's so many examples. My teacher, Pioneer collaborated with the Dave Brubeck band in 1958 when they were on this cultural diplomacy tour in India, and which may have led to the creation of Take 5, which is one of the most popular jazz tunes today. May have come from that collaboration.
So it's been happening from
it's been happening
ages.
Right.
And I think you have to evolve as a musician.
Yeah.
And I think it also depends on the exposure you have. You
Of
are
course.
here right there,
Yeah.
with so many wonderful musicians you
Right.
can collaborate with.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody playing a mridangam in Kerala might not have that exposure.
Absolutely,
So, it
yeah.
depends. So,
Right.
yeah, that's...
It changes a lot, and I mean, we also live in a completely different global context now. Where I've been performing in India for almost 20 years now. Every year I go especially in
Oh,
December
okay,
during the
nice.
music festival. So I also feel connected to, of course, my teacher, my guru's there, but I'm very connected to the other artists of my generation and previous generation that I've performed with. And we're all connected through social media and all these other things in a way that even a generation ago was impossible, right? So in some ways, like, we're way more connected, but again, I think here in the Bay at this moment in time, like, it is a very unique community of artists and presenters, the whole ecosystem, right? It's not just the artists. You need the venues, the presenters who are open-minded, people like PC who had this vision. Hey, yes, we have this great venue. We haven't been featuring as much South Asian music. Let's go in that direction. And even before that, he was, had the vision for the educational outreach programs, and that's how we first really started
and I know you
working
teach
together.
young kids also.
All-
It's
yeah.
amazing. You know, they
Yeah, all
start
ages. Yeah.
them young. I know, PC, you gave me the schedule for the freight,
Yeah.
but where can people go to find what's coming up next?
Yeah, we have many different concerts coming up and a bunch that are featuring Indian classical music. But you can go to thefreight.org
Okay.
to check out what's going on. You know, there's a bunch of shows right on that landing page, and if you go to the education page, you can see the workshops that Rohan's going to be doing coming up. If you're interested in learning drumming from a master, he's got a couple of workshops going on, and you'll see a lot of shows when you visit the site, thefreight.org.
Thefreight.org, and a few I know of Rakesh Chaurasia, another world-renowned, he plays the flute, I have to say, and then Ustad Amjad Ali ji with both his sons coming up, and that would be another one to look into. So I think go to thefreight.org and buy your tickets soon, because like they're saying, they fill up really fast, and I think it's so wonderful to have a smaller venue for such music, because I guess a big venue never does that. You know, you don't feel the personal connection with the musicians and what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like
I enjoy the smaller venues.
Of course, yeah.
Classical.
it works really well for that
Yeah.
music because it's really great sounding venue,
Yeah.
both on stage for the musicians and
Yes.
in the audience. It sounds really great, feels really good in the room, and the music sounds incredible in the space. And
Yeah.
you can, and people come out of those rooms, out of those concerts in bliss, just knowing that they've been transported by this music.
Yeah.
And I can also add, like, as a performer who's, been lucky to perform on a lot of stages that were featuring Indian classical music for the first time. It is a different experience even for us as performers. Going onto a stage that has so much history, right? There's so many legends across genres have performed that. We're all used to, in our genres, performing in certain venues where people of the same genre keep performing there over and over, and that has its own kind of vibe. But when you go to these platforms where it's truly showcasing a wide variety of genres and over the decades, again, I think there's often like a different sense of responsibility. You feel like you're truly presenting and representing your tradition to a new and to a global audience. What's also very interesting is that, again, a lot of these performances or types of performances happen across the Bay. Like I said, I've even performed in venues just a few blocks, from here, the San Jose, Performing Arts Center, and just a few months ago, or in the summer, I was there. Hammer Theater, the Break Room, a lot of venues here. But we often don't necessarily get these types of performances in the East Bay, in Berkeley, Oakland, and there is a large and growing and very, I think, enthusiastic community there that, again, may find it very hard to come all the way to the South Bay, for a performance. So I think it's just a really wonderful, again, constellation of stars that's allowing all of these things to happen, and for the community to really connect in such a powerful way.
And I just, just listening to you too, I'm thinking that, collaborations are human collaborations are happening and making music together. And I don't know what's going to happen with AI coming in, how things are going to change. That's for another show.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's for another conference.
That's another conference. So, but enjoy the human connections, I'll say, and the music that they make. And PC, I know you write. So you're a writer, you're a poet, and I would love to hear something. You have a new album, Legacy, that's come up.
Yeah, Little Ransoms.
A little bit, about that. And if you'd like to play or sing, that would be great. And then Rohan, I'd love for you. You got a kanjira here.
I do, yeah.
Kanjira is another instrument, a very ancient instrument.
All right.
I've heard it a lot in Indian folk music.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear something from both of you.
Yeah.
Why don't we play?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Anything.
Okay.
Or-
Try?
Yeah, go for it. It is,
together.
yeah.
This
It
was
is.
It is.
so wonderful. And this is just really unique and versatile. I don't know, so
We
many.
could go out on the road with this.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this was so fun. And well, thank you for being on Off the Cuff. Rohan, lovely, to chat with you, and PC. Welcome
Likewise.
back and anytime.
Thank you.
You know.
Thanks so much for having us. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's always lovely to have you. And again, listeners, go to thefreight.org. Check out the list of singers and musicians they have there, and do buy tickets. Support something which is bringing such wonderful music to you all. And all I'll say is that all I hope music to create safe spaces for people all around, and maybe keep believing in the commonality of humanity and the oneness of humanity.
Yes.
That is so important, and times are so polarizing these days that it's just difficult. And what you're doing is gathering people of all cultures together. So thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
that.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you both, for providing a platform for our music. So the whole community has to come together to make this work. So
Absolutely.
Thank you as well.
Yeah, rightly said. Thank you. Take care and be well.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.